In today's video, we're going to show you how we made our resin river desk for our ultimate setup. Now, in our ultimate setup video, we had a lot of comments regarding the resin river desk and how we made it. So I'm going to take you guys along for the ride. We have no prior experience in woodwork or resin art, so this is pretty much everything that we took from watching hundreds of tutorials over on YouTube, and we took all of the best points and tips to create our own. Now, with that being said, I'll leave a bunch of resins and powders in the video description, just in case you guys want to try this for yourself. To activate all of Windows features, head on over to u2key.com. Purchase a Windows 10 Pro key for as little as $9.46. Use offer code DBI for 40% off. That's a fraction of retail price. Copy your key and paste it here to activate. You can also enjoy all softwares with our 20% discount code DBIA. To start things off, we purchased some natural live wood, which we thought would look nice on set and create a cool river pattern. The wood comes with the bark still intact, so it's important for us to remove this because the bark is so loosely attached to the wood, it could come loose over time. I do not have all of the appropriate tools for the job, however, I will make do with a lot of common tools like a hammer and a flathead screwdriver to chisel away the bark. Anything that I could not remove was removed by lightly grinding the excess away and then sanding out the grinding marks. I also gave the top a quick sand to get it prepped for the sealing. Now, before we seal anything though, I had to try and shape up one end of our wood that had cuts and saw marks from when it was originally cut. I traced out the rough shape I was after and then proceeded to cut that with the jigsaw. I also wanted the wood to mimic a river bank, so I had to angle the cut with the jigsaw and then smoothen it out with the grinder and a sander. There are lots of soft wood bits which I wanted to remove because that can often lead to cavities inside the wood and they would look nice filled in with the resin. Now that the wood is prepped and all dust is removed, it is time to seal the wood and the edges. For this, we are using a 2:1 ratio of deep pour clear resin. It's extremely important to mix the resin well. I decided to coat the sides and the top. The seal helps to reduce the amount of air bubbles that stick to the sides, and if you are using a color pigment in the resin, it will also stop the color from soaking into the wood. I used a paintbrush to apply the resin and left it for 24 hours to dry. As you can see, the coat really brings out the wood's natural colors, and you can see what I mean by the wood soaking up the resin by all of the small bumps present. This is from the moisture contained within the resin. It is important to scuff up the seal of the resin to make sure that the main pour sticks with a solid bond. Think of each scratch being an anchor point for the resin to grab onto. After sanding, we made sure that the wood had no dust left on it so that the main resin pour is nice and pure. We made our table mold from melamine. Unfortunately, we did not have the white smooth MDF or chipboard with the melamine available. However, we did have this one available, which did the job, but it was a little harder to release the desk. As an alternative, you can also use plastic like acrylic. It is important to seal in all of the edges with either hot glue or silicone so the resin does not leak. Now, I did not see anyone on YouTube do this. However, a resin supplier recommended drilling a few holes into the side of the wood to allow the resin to flow in and anchor it in place. I did this with each piece and inserted them into the mold. Again, it is important to make sure you have a deep pour resin, otherwise you can have weird reactions. This is a 2:1 ratio, and I'll leave some links below to some good resins and powder that you can use. There is no particular limit to the amount of powder to use. I personally started with a small amount and added in a little more until I was happy with the transparency and color. For reference, I did not use up this 100-gram bag. I try to limit the amount of air bubbles present by going over the resin with a heat gun. A hairdryer will also work. This wood can lift and float sometimes, so I decided to screw them down from the bottom. You can also place heavy things on top to prevent this from happening. From here, it is as simple as filling up the mold and using the heat gun to remove all of the air bubbles. holes on the top surface can be filled in at this point. Each resin is different, however most will harden on top or at least be jelly-like within 16 hours. It is important to check on your piece every few hours and give the resin a stir to keep your desired pattern, because the powder does sink. Now when I say stir, you only need to stir on the top. After the resin is jelly-like, the powder can no longer move and you should let the desk cure for at least a week. Now that the desk is ready, you can remove it from the mold. The bottom might be an issue, but a few taps with the hammer should break the seal. I decided I wanted the desk much thinner because it weighed a lot. I used a planer to remove the thickness and sanded it down flat. There may be small air bubbles in the resin which you can fill in and sand down. Once you are happy with the results, it is time to move from the orbital sander into the final wet sanding, starting from 600 grit all the way to 2000, and do not skip any grits in between. Now that I had finished my wet sanding, it is time to buff out those finer scratches. I had no buffing or polishing paste available, however I saw a lot of people using toothpaste for it. For the most part it did work, but I still wanted that polished finish, so I ordered myself some fine 8000 grit polishing paste and some finishing polish to use with some polishing pads. And as you can see, the result was well worth the wait. And lastly, to finish off the desk, we applied our oils. I just used a microfiber cloth and I rubbed it into the wood, and I ended up needing 2 coats to completely do it. And as you can see, it really brings out the color and the grain in the wood, which I really love. And there it is, the resin river desk. Guys, I hope you all enjoyed the process, and as I said in the start of the video, I'll leave all of the resin product links in the video description as well as the powder if you wanted to try something like this for yourself. Now the results are well worth it if you spend time on it. Now after this video, I recommend, if you haven't seen it already, having a look at our ultimate setup video. It'll show you the whole process from start to finish and how we got to this setup behind us. Anyway, if you'd like to support the channel, YouTube and Patreon membership links are in the video description. It helps us out, especially to do projects like this. It costs a lot of money to do something like this. I think we spent maybe $700 US on resin and materials, and plus another maybe 300 to 400 on the wood itself. Anyway, thanks for your support, guys. Be sure to leave a comment down below if this is something you think you would want to try for yourself. And consider hitting that subscribe button if this video was useful to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.